Next up is Advtech, which of course has been around a long time and operates in that space. Tertiary education, secondary education, which means high school, university, and then a bit of placement activity. Market cap is 10 billion rand. I think it's 9.99 or something,
yes.
But 10 is a good rounding amount. Price earnings ratio is 25.8 and the dividend yield 1.77%. I was looking at it. Like when we first started doing hot stocks, I had some notes that I'd kept. At that point, it had a market cap of $2 billion,
right.
2 billion rand, and it's basically gone up fivefold.
Yeah, so this has been a long-standing play on the private education sector, actually a lot before
decades and decades.
Yeah, and they initially acquired the Crawford brand and business, and actually it was a separate sort of listing in resources and then education, and they actually merged it. So kind of three legs. The school education, the tertiary education, and the resourcing, but has been a phenomenal success story. Yeah. Has grown very strongly, a bit more conservative, I think, in its approach than Curro has been. Maybe they got a bit of a wake-up call because there was a somewhat hostile takeover offer by Curro.
Which fell aside, yeah?
That's right, but I think that sort of lit is a bit of a fuse under the board in terms of expansion. So the recent expansion has been much more significant, both by acquisition and more capital projects.
Yeah. So, I mean, they always had the Crawford schools, and then they added other bits to it, like Trinities and so on and so forth. In addition to that, though, they expanded aggressively in the tertiary space, which means Rosebank College, Varsity College, and a couple of other brands, which has really worked well, because just as they were really significantly expanding their facilities and their offering in that space, we had the influx of more kids with university passes that couldn't quite necessarily afford to go full degree program. Also Vega is another brand there.
Right.
Plus then the dramas happening at the state campuses with the Fees Must Fall campaigns over a period of 2-3 years, leading lots of cautious parents to say, look, I'd rather send my kids to the private institution because they got accredited, validated degree anyway, and I know the context is going to be quieter.
Yeah, so quite significant barriers to entry to get those courses accredited. So once you have that, you've got the capacity. Interesting, and we mentioned a big fixed cost base in terms of the facilities, and what we saw in the last set of results is with an increase in the enrollment numbers, as you've described, a significant increase in the operating margin and the profitability of that sector. So I think that segment has the potential to be as large as the schooling segment, which makes it still
you
quite...
can see the numbers are starting to equalize.
Yeah.
And they're coming back to that technology point you made earlier. This is where there's a lot of scope to enroll further numbers of students, but to stream them into use of online resources in order to better manage their capacity issues.
Yeah, that's right. And leverage, as we said, leverage the space and the IP, and also it's a much lower cost form of delivery. So and that could keep the costs down, keep the prices down, and keep the affordability up.
Turning back briefly to the secondary schooling, high schooling thing, though, they did a number of acquisitions of things like the Centuris colleges and so on, you know, which is more at the high end of the market. So that's why it seemed to have worked better. That's where there's kind of lots of...
I think it's slightly more defensive, obviously, at the upper end. You've got people that can afford, and it's a priority for them to send their children to private schooling and will continue to pay the fees that are demanded. They also have expanded into the Western Cape. They were sort of more Gauteng strong, but now more national, I think, which is also very positive. They had a very strong CapEx program announced, 3 billion rand, and I think that's bearing fruit, and we're seeing that in very good numbers.
Okay, we're running out of time. We've still got to talk about Pembury. So as far as this one's concerned, the share chart came up. One's got to be hot about this. I mean, Roy Douglas is doing a great job.
Absolutely. And I think a reasonable valuation given the earnings growth and earnings growth prospects. So hot.
Excellent.